All right, we're here today with the captivating stage and demonstrational hypnosis mesmerize your audience webinar. My name is Chris Johnson. I'm flying solo today. When Will and I, Dr. Will Horton and I did this webinar several days ago, we had some technical issues, and as it turned out, the only person everybody could hear was Will, and for some reason my audio did not come through. I have no idea what happened, but I'm flying solo today, so we're going to get this up and running so everybody can see and benefit from my 15 years of experience. So, as I said, my name is Chris Johnson. I'm a board-certified hypnotist through the National Guild of Hypnotists. Just passed my board certification in August. Yay! I'm also a certified instructor of hypnosis through the Guild, and I'm also a certified trainer of NLP and Neuro-Linguistic Programming through the National Federation of NLP, Dr. Will Horton's organization. So let's get started. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get past. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get past the type ready question box because we're all doing this on a recording. So, what would happen if you could use stage and demonstrational hypnosis and be confident you could wow any audience? This is a really good question. Now, it's no secret that when people do stage and demonstrational hypnosis, they do things very badly. Let's just be honest and call a spade a spade. Many hypnotists, if they're doing stage shows, use outdated skits and stage shows that do not entertain the audience. They use outdated induction methods that take too long and bore everyone. And they just talk about hypnosis when doing demonstrational talks. And they only believe that a stage hypnosis show is only for fun but not useful for educational or motivational presentations. This is not true. Yes, I should break in here and give you a little bit of information about me for those people listening to this and watching this that don't know about me. I have been a clinical hypnotist since 2011. I've got a rocking practice up here in Niagara Falls, New York, where I see about 20 clients a week, and I'm very, very busy. But before I got my practice going, I was a full-time professional stage magician and stage hypnotist, entertainer, and I literally traveled all over the country. I started making presentations back in, I went full-time in 2003, but I've been doing this stuff for almost 2 decades. And I started off doing magic, and magic's a lot of fun, and I was able to use it in many ways, as we'll discover later on in this webinar. And then a few years later, after I became a full-time pro, I started learning stage hypnosis because it didn't have any props, and I just found it fascinating. It's powers of the mind, and understanding how people function and their the neurology of their mind and everything. I just found it fascinating. So I started doing stage shows, and then people started asking me after the stage shows, "Oh, can you help me stop smoking? Can you help me lose weight and everything?" So I started opening up a clinic because I travel a lot, and the road gets old after a while. But primarily when I perform, I'm using my magic and stage hypnosis skills to deliver an educational concept, something motivational, something educational, talking to high school kids about drug awareness or bullying or something like that. So as a result, what we have here is not just an entertainment function or a demonstrational function, but a way to deliver actual motivational and or educational content to people of all ages. So I'm going to be talking about that and several other things during this particular webinar. So as we continue here, here's what's tried. Stage hypnotists often spend time and money trying to crack uber competitive markets, Vegas, cruise ships, etc., for prestige. And what happens is hypnotists get too talky during those free talks with Rotary, Kiwanis, and other civics groups. In other words, what I mean by getting too talky is that they get there and they start talking about the nuts and bolts about hypnosis. They start talking about the history of hypnosis and back then, and James Esdale and Milton Erickson and Dave Ellman, and all the great forefathers of hypnotists. But they're appealing to the attendees on their conscious mind, their analytical mind, as opposed to getting them involved emotionally. So by being too talky, they don't get a lot of bang for their buck out of their talks. So, they fail very often. And another problem is that many clinical hypnotists think that stage hypnosis is unethical. And what I mean by that is they don't believe that you can do stage hypnosis and clinical hypnosis as the same person, the same practice. I recently did a presentation for my local NGH chapter meeting at the Guild here near Buffalo, New York. And one of the attendees, the very first question before I even started my presentation, asked me, when she found out I was both a clinician and a stage performer, and she said, "How can you ethically do clinical work and stage hypnosis work?" And my response, was very brief. It was like, "Do a clean show." and we'll get more into that as we go. And there's more to it than that, but the basic crux of it is if you do a clean show, then you're safe. It's all about presenting hypnosis in an ethical way, and we'll get more into that as we get into this talk. So why it doesn't work, those things that don't work. Certain markets have more prestige in the minds of performers, but they're so competitive that success is much harder. What I mean by that, going back to stage hypnosis, many people, they want to do a Vegas show or a cruise ship. They want to be in a fancy stage and everything. And the problem with doing a cruise ship show is that it's a very hard market to crack. It's uber competitive, and they're very discerning about who they hire, and it's insanely competitive. And a lot of the times, too, with the cruise ship market, you have to have an in. You have to know somebody. When I went to a cruise ship last year, my wife and I, we took a cruise to Alaska. Beautiful. It had a great cruise and everything, but the entertainers there were, in my view, very subpar. And again, I've been doing this for, professionally 20 years, full-time for 11 years. And a lot of the entertainers on the cruise ship were subpar, especially the magician. The magician was awful, and I talked to a few of my friends in the industry who know about cruise ship performing and who do it themselves, and I mentioned the name of the guy, and they said, yeah, he's got an in with so and so at the cruise ship lines and everything. So you have to have an in. And in terms of Vegas performing, there's a lot of perceived prestige in it, and the reality of that very basically is this. When you're in Vegas and you do a Vegas show, most of the time you have to do what's called four-walling. In other words, you have to rent the building, you have to pay for all the marketing, and you have to do everything yourself. You're on the hook for all of the marketing expenses. So if it fails, and you lose big. You don't just lose a gig, you lose a lot of money you put forth. And so four-walling is really, really tough. But many people try to do it because of the perceived prestige in it. And I prefer to work in markets where there's not as much competitiveness. And also, they're easier to crack. And we'll get more into that as we get into this. So getting back to the talks, because this is a multifaceted webinar today, rather than experience hypnosis, just talking about it, like I said, it bores people. Once again, use our skills as a hypnotist. Understand the fact that if we're talking about things from an informational standpoint, about the nature of the subconscious mind and the conscious mind and all that, the critical factor and what goes on and everything, from an informational standpoint, you're engaging, and I said this before, you're engaging the conscious mind. You're not engaging the subconscious mind where the emotions are. Remember, people make buying decisions based on their emotions, and we justify it with logic. So, and getting back to stage hypnosis, limiting what stage hypnosis is useful for really hinders its potential. And what I mean by that is many people, they look at stage hypnosis just as a show. They just do a show, and it's a lot of fun, and maybe it's ethical, maybe it's not ethical. But as I get into further into this webinar, I've been able to take stage hypnosis and use it for educational, motivational purposes, and in really fun ways. And almost no people are talking about these kind of things either. This is a wide open potential market for you. Now, in terms of techniques, excuse me, what worked decades ago will not work today. The 21st century is more fast-paced, and by that I mean stage hypnotists years ago would use a progressive relaxation induction or an eye fixation induction. Everybody look at the light on the wall there and concentrate on that light, and then using these different techniques, they induce trance. The problem is it's really boring to watch. It can take a long time. These days people have their smartphones. I mean, my wife and I yesterday, we went to the Microsoft store at the mall, which is similar to the Apple store now, and they're showing all the latest technology. And they've got, these little wristwatches you can wear where they, not only track your activities during the day, but you can also check your email on a wristwatch. It's absolutely amazing. It syncs up with your phone, and people are used to faster pace. They're used to technology. They're used to having everything they want available to them right now. So it basically means that we have to work a lot harder as presenters, as performers, as speakers to hold people's attention. So here's how stage hypnosis can help you. First of all, it gives you a lot of credibility with clients. And again, a lot of people, they're like, oh, they don't like to mix a stage, and they don't like to mix clinical hypnosis together. And I'm telling you, I started mentoring with Will Horton about 2 years ago. About 2 years ago now. And he told me right from the get-go, he goes, in your office for your clinical work, have a video wall running, and it's showing testimonials and that sort of stuff, and then also have it run clips of your stage shows, because he knows I do a lot of stage shows. And I was kind of resistant to the idea. And over the last couple of years, I've become more and more open about stage hypnosis with my clinical clients, because they'll ask me like, oh, we do a session and they ask me, well, what about those guys on stage? I was in Vegas and I saw this and I saw that. Is that stuff really real? So I started talking to them about stage hypnosis, and you can see their eyes shift. They would alter a state, like, really? And you can hear in the thing I'm making in my voice, and their eyes would do this thing where you could like see them alter their state almost instantly. It was instantaneous, and it was really, really cool. So I started telling more and more people about my stage shows. And I've even had people come to see me. They come to see me. They're like, oh, I saw you on stage, and I know if you could do all that with those people up on stage, you must be able to help me stop smoking, whatever the case may be. I just had a gentleman come in from Canada about an hour away to come see me. And I asked how he found me, because I'm always tracking my marketing. And he goes, oh, my niece saw you at a college show you did recently. And I thought, I got your name from her. And I tracked you down online, and I thought, well, if he can do all that stuff on stage, the things that she was describing, then I'm sure he can help me with what I'm working on. And so he came to see me specifically because of stage. So it really gives you a lot of credibility with clients. It's like the wow factor. They're like fascinated by this stuff. Even if they're afraid of it, we can assuage their fears. But even if they're afraid of it, they're still fascinated by it. So, and then also, I believe that stage hypnosis, it deepens your understanding of hypnosis. You see, unlike a lot of people listening to this, I did not start with clinical, then move into stage. I started with stage and moved into clinical. And when I started going to the Guild, I've gone to the Guild, the summer conference in Massachusetts. I've gone to it 4 years in a row. And I'm always amazed by how many people, when you listen to people talk and you hear hallway talk and people talking before and after classes and that sort of thing, and people are always worried about the best induction to use, and whether or not somebody's actually in trance and everything. And I'm always fascinated by that, because by doing stage shows, I learned really quickly how to induce trance, how to test for trance, how to make sure they were in trance, and move on from there. So believe me, coming from a stage guy who's been doing this stuff for well over a decade, inducing trance is the easy part, and it's just after what you do with trance, whether it's stage or demonstrational or even clinical, that's where the art form comes in from. So once you understand that, then you can understand that the trance work is the easy part, and it really helps you become a better clinician. I really believe that. I really think I had a leg up on everybody else. I know a lot of people out there listening to this, and maybe some people not listening to this, still use progressive relaxation and very relaxation-minded induction techniques for their clinical work. And the problem of that is that there's no testing. You don't know if they're actually hypnotized. Relaxation does not equal hypnosis. As I explain it to my clients, relaxation can make achieving hypnosis in a clinical setting much easier, because it's much more pleasant, and people's guard comes down, and so on and so forth. But we do not need relaxation for hypnosis. So my belief is that becoming a stage performer, even if you don't use stage skills, it helps deepen your understanding of hypnosis. It really helps out a lot. I know it did for me. It also increases your confidence. I've been in situations where I've had 400 screaming high schoolers and middle schoolers screaming, yelling and screaming, still able to induce trance with 20 people up on stage. Trust me, inducing trance is the easy part. So if you have the knowledge and skills to induce trance and 15, 20 people up on stage with a whole bunch of people watching and clapping and laughing and music going on and everything like that, and distractions and bright lights and all this stuff, doing something one-on-one with somebody who is really motivated for change in the quiet solitude of your office, that's easy. So it really increases your confidence. It also makes your demos more effective, too. Again, just because somebody is a good clinician does not mean that they know how to present. I've had a leg up on a lot of people because I've been presenting for years. I know how to captivate an audience. I understand theater and stagecraft and everything like that. And Will Horton, he's got, decades of experience doing presentations and trainings and captivating people, and he'll hold people for like days on end, because he does multi-day trainings. And I'm just starting now to get into trainings. I got my CI certification last year, and there's something different about holding people's attention for a 45-minute show, which is what I do the most of the time, versus holding people's attention for several days for a multi-day training. So regardless, whether you're a stage performer or a trainer or something like that, and you've got the skills to hold people's attention, if you're going to do like a 20-minute demo, getting back to the Kiwanis Club's example, being a good performer, not just a clinician, but an actual performer, will hold people's attention. It'll captivate them. Your demos will be a lot more effective because you're presenting, you're engaging their emotions, and you're not engaging their intellect as much, and it makes what you do a lot more effective if you're going to do a demo presentation. And it also increases visibility for clients too. Yeah, don't underestimate that. Like I said, the whole reason I got into being a clinical hypnotist is because after my stage shows, people would ask me about smoking and weight loss and stress and anxiety and phobias. And yes, I know as a clinician, a non-medical trained clinician, we should not use those terms, but those are the terms that people are saying to me. I've got this phobia, or I've got anxiety, or whatever. So people start asking, so it can actually give you an income stream too. And speaking of which, it gives you another income stream. Not only can it help increase visibility and get more clients, but for those slow times, there are certain times of the year that a lot of clinicians believe that hypnosis slows down. So it can help fill in the gaps in your schedule. I know that a lot of people have this belief that in the fourth quarter of the calendar, pretty much anywhere from mid-September through the end of the year, through the holidays and everything, that clinical work kind of slows down a bit. And for me, since I got my clinic rocking, I've not found that to be true. I stay pretty busy in the fourth quarter, but regardless, if you do have slow periods, it's just a nice thing to add to your income stream, like weekend work and that sort of thing too. So stage hypnosis can really benefit you. So what is stage hypnosis? As I define it, stage hypnosis is using our art form of hypnosis in an entertaining and engaging manner to entertain audiences of all ages and sizes. Now, ethics come into question because of inappropriate or dangerous material. And basically, it comes into the big fear, the cliche that you hear is, you're not going to make me cluck like a chicken, are you? Or bark like a dog, are you? Or do really humiliating skits. Or to add to that, take off my clothes and do anything sexual. So that's where the ethics come in. It also comes into a question of safety as well. Staying safe with what you're doing. There's a and I'll touch upon this later on in this webinar too, because I've got a slide coming up. But I like to riff and ad-lib, but I'm doing these kind of things. But there's a hypnotic skit in stage work called the human bridge, or body catalepsy, where basically we know that in hypnosis, if you go along with the Aaron's depth scale, stage 3 is full body catalepsy. In other words, the entire body is completely relaxed or completely rigid. And what a stage hypnotist will sometimes do is they'll take the person, induce full body catalepsy, and they'll put their head on the back of one chair and their ankles on the back of another chair, so that their body is rigid and it forms a bridge between these two chairs. And then some hypnotists, and I've even seen Mark Savard do this, and Mark Savard's a Vegas guy, and I don't mind using his name on this recording because it's a public show. He either does or used to do, because I've got a DVD of his performance, once he's got that bridge, he'll actually stand on the person's back or chest, and they'll support that person, which is incredibly dangerous. You have no idea, the physical capabilities that somebody has when they come up on stage. Maybe they just had an operation. And as we all know, that hypnosis does not give you superpowers. It does not increase your normal, natural physical strength or anything like that. So it's horribly dangerous. So that's where ethics come into question. Also, we can move now into what is demonstrational hypnosis. Now, demonstrational hypnosis is demonstrations in audience settings. And the ones that people use most often when we think about this kind of stuff, the things I hear most often when I talk to people from the guild or whatever, are like Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs, service clubs, that sort of thing. And what happens with a service club is they'll have it's like community things where they business leaders and people they all have like-minded. It's a club. It's a club. They do civic groups or they do good deeds for the community, and whatever it is they do. That's fine. So what they like to do is once a month when they have these meetings, they like to have like a guest speaker come in, and they'll have somebody come in, they'll talk to them about this, that, and the other thing. And their target, what they look for most often is like a 20-minute presentation. They don't typically like something long because most people do presentations poorly. And my guess, my hypothesis is the reason why they only do 20 minutes, because they'll tell me when I was doing them, they'll say, well, keep it short, 20 minutes. Anything after that, and you start losing people's attention. And my guess is a lot of the speakers that they would have back in the day where it probably went longer, but weren't good speakers and couldn't captivate them. So now it's just become part of the part of the meetings and part of the how they do things to make the speakers shorter, like 20 minutes. And then what they do is have you don't get paid for these kind of things, but and many times they don't even want you passing out your literature, like your brochures or anything like that. So it's very limited about what you can and can't do, and a lot of that stuff is negotiable. And they'll give you like a free lunch or something like that, and it's usually like cold cuts or sandwiches or whatever, nothing fancy. And you get up there and you do your 20-minute presentation, and that's it. And the idea is that you're getting your name out there, you're getting exposure. And the problem with this is that, again, most people, when they do this, they're not engaging their emotions. They're doing things very clinically, very informationally. They're explaining things from a logical standpoint about hypnosis. That's not the only place where people can do demonstrations, however. There's also the country clubs, sports, golf, that sort of thing, because if you've gone to country clubs, or if you know about country clubs, one of the big things that a lot of the country clubs push is the whole golf thing, the golf memberships, the golf tournaments and everything. And if you've been in clinical hypnosis for a while, you know that people who are really, avid golfers, they'll spend a lot of money to improve their golf game. So it's a great opportunity to get in front of them and speak to them about golf or sports enhancement or what have you. And that's just a few of the places, the venues open to you for demonstrational hypnosis. And the idea, once again, is that it generates interest and generates sessions for you if you do it properly. So now we can move to what you need to do in 4 steps. And again, we're talking about demonstrational hypnosis. We're talking about stage hypnosis. And as we'll touch on in a little bit, we're also covering using motivational and educational concepts in a stage show setting to impact change in people's lives. So the first thing to do is develop a show or demonstration that shows hypnosis in a positive light, making sure it's ethical. Use modern techniques that captivate 21st century audiences. So not only does it have to be ethical, clean, non-sexual, safe, that sort of thing, non-humiliating, no barking like dogs, that sort of thing, but also use modern techniques to captivate 21st century audiences. As I alluded to a little while ago, a lot of the old induction techniques, progressive relaxation, eye fixation, they're either slow or boring or both, and it's not engaging for the audience. And I'll tell you a story a little bit about a hypnotist who had a really great induction and what he did to negatively set up his audience's expectations. But I digress. And pre-talks have to be fast too. So that's one of your techniques. I mean, when you come in and a client's coming in for a session and you have the pre-talk. Many people's pre-talks are very lengthy. I know mine is. The way I do my pre-talk now is because I want to make sure that I don't lose track, and it's everybody gets the same quality of service. So when I do my pre-talk, if somebody comes in for an in-person consultation, we do the consultation, they sign up for a multi-session program, I hand them my pre-talk on CD, and I say, listen to that a few times before you come in for your first session. So that establishes a lot of things. Number one, it makes sure that they get the same quality of pre-talk every time. Like if I'm not feeling good, or if I'm rushed for time and I don't want to forget anything, or my vocal tonality is not where it should be, they get the same quality of pre-talk each and every time, each and every client. And also it's a compliancy thing too. If they come in for their first session and they have not devoted time to listen to a 20-minute CD, then it tells you a lot about that client. But anyway, that's clinical. It's not what we're here about today. So if you're doing a stage show, the last thing you want to do is have a 20-minute pre-talk over. It's just way too long, not enough action. So my pre-talk when I do stage is about 4 or 5 minutes. It's really, really fast. I hit the things I need to hit. It's very engaging. It's very interactive. There's a lot of compliancy and built-in waking hypnosis sessions built into it. You also want to make the show/demonstration fast or fun, whether you're doing it for a demonstration or not, like a 20-minute Kiwanis Club thing or a stage show. You want to make it fast and fun. Just keep things moving, keep things moving, keep things moving. Again, people's attention spans, they have the attention span of a gnat. And again, I'll harp on this throughout the entire webinar. You want to make it safe and appropriate. That means keeping your audience's safety in consideration. If somebody comes up and you're doing a stage show and they've got high heels on, you don't want them dancing, for example. You don't want to do the things like the human catalepsy bridge skit or things like that. You don't want to do anything sexual. You don't want to do anything suggestive. You want to keep everything safe and appropriate. Same thing with demonstrations, too. Last thing you want to do, if you think you're going to get sessions out of a demonstration after you make somebody cluck like a chicken, then you're crazy. And it sounds silly to mention that in this recording, but I mention this from experience. As I said, I've been a stage hypnotist and magician for a long time. And sometimes I like to go out and see other people's presentation. And I went to Pittsburgh. I have a friend out there. And this was about a decade or so ago. And early on in my full-time career, I've been doing it professionally for about a decade before that, but I've been full-time for about a year or so. So my friend, he has a sign business, and he invited me to go to his Chamber of Commerce meeting where he was a member. And the reason why is they're going to have a motivational speaker there, and a motivational speaker and magician. And when you get in front of a Chamber of Commerce or any kind of a corporate speaking environment, there are very often times where you've got the opportunity to pitch your wares. In other words, you do your presentation, and they say, if you want to take this program home with you, you've got it recorded or expanded, and you've got you're basically allowed to to make a pitch on your platform. It's kind of like similar to when you go to the guild and you see a good 1-hour presentation. Many times those folks will have expanded versions of what they're talking about for purchase in the bookstore. Well, anyway, I'm watching this guy's presentation, and he had already started to layer in some of this pitch and everything. And he did a thing with a $100 bill and a magic trick. And I won't bore you with the details of the magic trick, but basically he did a magic trick where he made a $100 bill appear, and he had a volunteer in the audience. He said, would you like this $100 bill? And the guy's like, yeah, it is a real $100 bill. I'll give it to you, but you have to go around the entire room 3 times making noises like a choo-choo train. And the guy did it, and you can see the look on his face like, oh, my God, I can't believe this. But I mean, $100. It was a good motivator. And to give the speaker credit, he gave the guy the $100. And the idea with that was because I knew what he was doing. The idea with that was, oh, look how nice I am. I'm giving away $100. It's like the whole law of reciprocity thing where he's trying to set up people purchasing things from him later. The problem was he killed rapport by having somebody do something humiliating in front of his peers. It was absolutely dreadful. So you want to make your presentation safe and appropriate and non-embarrassing. And that's something I ardently believe in, big time. So step number 1, when we break all this stuff down, does your show a demonstration show hypnosis in a positive light? And again, safe and appropriate, non-sexual skits, and even things like if you're doing a stage show, making sure your cords and wires and everything are taped down, or in a place where nobody's going to trip over anything. The stage is well lit. All your basic things about safety. If you're doing a demonstration, even if you don't have a microphone, same thing. If you're having somebody do something, keep their safety and their well-being in mind, and showing hypnosis in a positive light. Don't make yourself out to be somebody who controls somebody like a savant or anything like that. Also, and again, I keep on harping on this stuff, but there's a reason. Sexual skits are a no-no, and the reason why I keep on mentioning this over and over again is because a good hypnotist will know this stuff, but sometimes if they're in the middle of a situation, sometimes it's easy to fall prey to pressures from the audience. I was doing a show one time, not long after I'd been a stage hypnotist, and mind you, before this I had 10 years professional experience in front of crowds, but I was still a relatively new stage hypnotist, maybe like 6 months into it or something like that. And I was doing a show, and these folks, they really wanted a 90-minute show, this corporate group, and they really wanted a 90-minute show. And I really I don't like doing 90-minute stage shows. It's just too long for reasons I'll get into later on in this webinar or in the full training. But they really pushed me. They wanted a 90-minute show, and, I'm a capitalist pig. I wanted the money. So, okay, fine. So one of the things I'd heard from other hypnotists was to stretch out the length of your show is pass out a hat and slips of paper, and then have audience members write down skit suggestions into it and draw them from the hat, and make the suggestion, and so it's more interactive with the entire audience, not just the folks who are up on stage being hypnotized. So I did that one show. I pulled out the first slip of paper, and it said something along the lines of "man kissing man." That was the skit suggestion. I'm like, oh my God! I just crumpled it away and threw it away. Picked up the second one. Oh man, a man acting like a horse. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. So I actually did something I should not have done, but I did it anyway. I turned on the audience, and I said, I'm not going to read any more of these suggestions. These are horrible, and these are embarrassing. I'm sure you would not like it if this was being done to you when you were up there. So anyway, if I was so worried about filling out the time, then I may have fallen prey to it, or people are laughing, and sometimes you do things without meaning to. And I mention that again because I've seen some performers, magicians, hypnotists, comedians, if they're not getting the reaction out of the audience, they'll start bringing out crude material, hoping that the shock of the swear words or what have you will come out and draw a reaction out of people. I was doing a stage show one time it was a policeman's ball fundraiser kind of thing, and it was like a double bill. They had a comedian open for me, and then I was going to be the stage hypnotist. I was like the main act, and my show went really well, and it's very clean and stuff. And there were some parents in the audience with a couple of kids and everything, and this comedian, his introduction, he's like, oh, he's on Comedy Central, he's on Howard Stern, and all these media appearances and everything. And as soon as I heard Comedy Central and Howard Stern, I was like really leery. And the guy had assured, because the comedian and I both talked to the client. And he assured the client, like, oh, yeah, my show's clean and everything like that. And it wasn't a great turnout for the show. There was maybe 100 people, not bad, but the theater held 400 people. So people were kind of spread out and stuff, so the reactions were kind of muted. I mean, they were reacting, but it just wasn't what this guy was probably expecting and or used to. So he wasn't getting the reactions he thought he deserved. So he started whipping out the blue material. It was like sex this, sex that, and it got really raw, really raunchy, and it crossed over R and went right into X-rated territory after he had assured the client he was going to do a clean show. And after his act was over, there's an intermission, and I was just kind of wandering on the hallways, just kind of like taken back by what he did. And I saw the mother and a couple of kids walking through the hallway of this theater. I said, folks, I'm very sorry for what happened for the comedian early, but please stick around. My show is 100% clean. Okay, we'll stay. And I did a show, and everybody was happy. So I keep harping on this for a reason. And again, I kind of got ahead of my slides here, but suggestions from the audience are usually death. Again, that what I got here with death with all the exclamation points, that's referring back to the story that I just told. So it's kind of funny. So now let's move on to step 2. Step 2, use a fast-paced, modern pre-talk to generate interest from the audience. Like I said, my pre-talk is very fast-paced. Almost from the moment I take the stage, I'm doing waking hypnosis techniques on them to make them more compliant, to set them up to respond to my suggestions and all these neat things. I'm engaging them, so I'm not just sitting there, but they're actually doing things. I use suggestibility tests, like the light, heavy hands, the magnetic fingers, that kind of stuff. Less so to see who's going to be a good hypnotic candidate, but more so just to get people involved, interactive, actually having them do stuff. And then again, my induction technique is very, very fast. If I was really concerned about time, I could usually get the entire group of people hypnotized in about 5-6 minutes. I usually take more time than that, simply because I'm having fun, I'm playing around with things, injecting a little bit of comedy, that kind of thing. But my induction is very, very fast-paced. It's very visual. There's a lot for the audience to watch and track and everything. So, fast-paced and modern is really good. I use induction techniques that induce trance very quickly. And so I will use, depending on my mood, if I'm doing a long show, I'll induce trance for the entire committee who's up on stage using a group hypnotic induction technique. And then if it's a longer show and I need to stretch things out, or if somebody in the audience really wants to be hypnotized and they didn't get a chance to come up there, I'll go out in the audience. Maybe I'll do like an instant induction or a rapid induction that induces trance, just like in a few seconds or something like that, just to keep things moving and very fun and engaging. That's what it's all about. And this is beware of your language. Now, I'm not talking about just curse words. I mean, if you want to promote hypnosis ethically, as I do, you don't want to curse in front of the audience, I believe. But being aware of your language also means being careful of the things you set up for expectations. And what I mean by that is this. Very often, people will they'll look at what we do in hypnosis, and I'm talking about practitioners now, clinicians and stage guys and ladies, and because it's old hat to us, we think that it's old hat to the audience. And what I mean by that is this. I've been doing stage hypnosis for, 2 or 3 years at this point. This is several years ago, and I was very comfortable doing it. So a friend of mine and I, we went to a local comedy club where they were having another hypnotist come in, and it was like an out-of-town kind of thing, and he was in, doing a tour. And he was good. He was very good. And he did a really cool induction where, the people who were up there, they were hypnotized in it was like 4 or 5 minutes. It was really, really fast. And it ended with arm catalepsy. So, everybody whose arms was in the air, cataleptic, and, the harder you try, the more the arm stays in the air, that kind of thing. And the ones whose hands stayed in the air, they were in deep trance, and then the other ones, he dismissed them and everything. And it was a really cool induction. Very engaging, very visual, very fun for the audience, and it allowed, and it was also had testing built into it, so he could track who was hypnotized and who was not, and so on and so forth. But he did one thing wrong at the beginning of that induction. He does his pre-talk. He's got the audience on his side. Everybody's laughing and clapping. People are coming up there and sitting down. And he's getting ready to start the induction. And he goes, okay, folks, now we have to do the most boring part of the show. We'll get to the good stuff in a few minutes. So he basically, using that one word, he set up the mental expectation in the audience, like, oh, this is boring now. And sure as anything, it was a good induction. And sure as anything, during the induction, people were talking amongst themselves in the audience and that kind of stuff. And he disengaged and broke rapport and everything. He set them up for failure. So bad. So be aware of your language. And also, remember, the audiences find this stuff fascinating. Now, again, you don't want to get too bogged down into the technical aspects of hypnosis, but never underestimate the power of simple suggestibility tests and things that we take for granted. So then, and all this stuff goes too for demonstrational hypnosis, not just stage as well. So let's go now to step 3. No progressive relaxation inductions. Too slow, too boring, and there's no testing built in. You don't know if somebody's actually hypnotized or not. And as a sidebar, I believe this is true too, not only for for stage and demonstrational hypnosis, but also for clinical work as well. Fill the talk or show with fun stuff. In other words, engage them, have them do stuff, actually have them, get engaged with doing activities from their seat or calling people up for demonstrations. Excuse me, not even necessarily for, deep trance work, although you could, but just things that keep people involved and show them some of this phenomenon that we find that many of us who are clinicians and practitioners, we find this stuff so, mundane. We're used to this kind of stuff. People do not understand this stuff. They will be engaged. And I say this over and over again, don't go into lecture mode. Keep it fun, keep it fast, keep it friendly. And another example I'll quote is, look at Bill Nye, the science guy. I mean, he made science very accessible for children. Kept things fun, kept things funny, kept things fast. It's engaging the mind. Or look at MythBusters. On Discovery Channel. I love MythBusters. They take some of the scientific stuff, and they've got cool graphics. They've got a lot of comedy. They do a lot of quick, editing and everything, and how all the stuff works. And they keep it fast and friendly. They pack a lot of information into their hour, but they keep it fast and fun with, very entertaining, that kind of stuff. So step 3, think outside the box. Educational hypnosis shows. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but I've been doing something for the last several years, which not a lot of people are doing, or at least they're not talking about it. I don't know too many people are even thinking about this kind of stuff. So you can use hypnosis to make an educational concept with kids. And this is something that I'm really proud of. I've been doing school assembly shows as my main performing avenue for several years now. I'll go into a school during the daytime. I'll do a school assembly on a given topic like bullying or drug awareness or self-esteem or respect or what have you. And I use my skills, whether as a magician or as a hypnotist, to deliver educational content. Like, in other words, I'm not just getting in front of the kids and saying, or even the adults. If I do a corporate event, I'll do the same thing. I'm not getting in front of the group and saying, okay, in the example of kids, okay, kids, don't do drugs. Now let's do a magic trick. That's not what I do. The hypnotic skits or the magic tricks that I do help illustrate. They serve as an illustration, a mnemonic, a memory hook of what I'm talking about. And it's really, really powerful stuff. And you become much more than just a speaker or an entertainer. You become something much more powerful, and people find this stuff amazing. It's really, really cool stuff. We'll talk more about that too. So step number 4, safety. Avoid human bridge catalepsy skits. Even in college shows, safe and appropriate. I remember it wasn't my first college show, but this was 8-9 years ago, and I've done a ton of college shows since then. But it was one of my first college shows, like maybe college show number 4 or 5. I hadn't done many. And after the show was over, I was packing up my sound equipment and everything, and one of the kids comes up to me, and he was like a member of like the school newspaper, and he was asking me some questions. How'd you get into this all the typical questions? How'd you get into this kind of stuff? What about this and what about that? And at the end of the little 5-minute interview, he goes, "Thank you for not being creepy." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, every other hypnotist we've had come to the college, they've done creepy things, and it's suggestive, and they just come off as creepy." I'm like, and I just laughed, and I said, "Thank you." And after he left, I thought to myself, I'm going to put that on my tombstone, because I want to be known as the guy. He was not creepy. Rest in peace. So even when people think about colleges, they see movies like Accepted or Animal House, and they think that because college kids, they want to party and have fun, that they want to be wild and crazy and have a lot of fun, that they automatically assume that they're going to be into like sexual stuff or risque stuff or inappropriate stuff or really weird stuff. It's not necessarily the case. They may think they do, but they all each person's barometer is different, but everybody always wants to feel, at the deepest core, people want to feel safe. I mean, even if somebody goes on a roller coaster and they want that visceral thrill and everything, in the back of their logical mind, they know that it's safe. If they really thought that there was danger there, the fun would be over. So even in college shows, they want safe and appropriate. And I'll tell you a little bit about my very first college show. The story I just told you is a true one about being creepy and that kind of stuff too. But after that show was over and after that kid made that comment, I had some of the organizers tell me the same thing. And the organizers told me some stories that I was horrified by. They said that, and I don't remember who they said it was, but there was somebody in the audience that the hypnotist, let me set this up properly. The hypnotist told somebody who was hypnotized on a stage, and he goes, "Okay, when person I'm touching, when I have you open up your eyes, you're going to go in the audience, you're going to see so-and-so there," and he described them, the guy with the black T-shirt and jeans, whatever. You're going to see that person is like your best friend. "Oh, cool. Hey, how you doing?" Or maybe it's like a movie star. You're like, "Oh, you're going to see him as Morgan Freeman. Oh, amazing. It's nice to meet you." Blah, 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 blah. Then like halfway through the skit, this hypnotist told the guy, and when I snap my fingers, you're going to see that person as Saddam Hussein. And this was back, many, many years ago, when Saddam Hussein was, an even bigger deal than he turned out to be now. I don't know if it was Saddam Hussein, whoever it was, I don't remember. But anyway, it was somebody bad, a terrorist. And instantly, the person went from shaking the person's hands, who we thought was Morgan Freeman or whoever the person was, and immediately just cracked the guy across the face. Bruising, and it was like absolutely horrifying. So after my first college show, the organizers were they told me that story about that other hypnotist, and they were very grateful to me for making my show clean, safe, and appropriate. Not just avoiding sexual humor, but keeping it safe so that nothing untoward could happen. That's good to remember. And this past summer, as we're recording this in 2014, I did a college show in Cortland for Cortland University. And they called me up, and just as an aside, when people book for college shows, very often they'll have one of the college kids, from the student activities committee or something. They'll call up, and they'll be all grown up, and it's really cute, and had this responsibility to book this entertainer, and try to be so professional and grown up and everything. So this girl calls me up, and we went through the pricing and everything like that, and okay, you're open for the stage, and blah blah. We found you online, yada yada yada. And I said, okay, great. Now we finalized everything. And just as an aside, I said, and just to let you know, I do a really clean, show that's not going to offend anybody, nothing dirty. And she goes, oh, we really want something that's dirty. The last hypnotist we had here feels filthy and raunchy. We loved it. I'm like, oh God. So I took the show because it was a good payday, and I thought as the show was getting closer and closer, I'm like, maybe I can talk them out of this. Maybe when I get there, I can just talk them out of this, or maybe I can just do my show and they'll be happy. And I was debating about it, and I talked to a couple of friends of mine, and they're like, yeah, you can spice it up a little bit if that's what the client really wants, if you're comfortable doing it. I really wasn't comfortable doing it, but I put together a few things, had some notes with me just in case, and got to the gig, and the organizer was there, and I heard her talking, because this was like an activities week for the incoming freshmen in the new semester. They'd had different shows and activities for the entire week, and my show was I think it was the last one. Then the previous day they'd had a comedian. These are all college kids, and apparently the organizer said, yeah, last night we had some complaints about the comedian, and he did a few off-color things. So I took that as my opportunity. I said, when so-and-so booked me for this gig, and it was one of the students, and she was there, she said, you guys wanted a raunchy show. Is that true, or would you rather do a clean show? And I told her, I'm more comfortable doing a clean show. Oh, no, we really want a clean show. No pole dancing or anything like that. I'm like, okay, good. So I did my clean show, and everybody was happy. So, that particular student wanted a raunchy show, but judging by the comments about the comedian the prior evening, not everybody else did. So that was interesting. So now we move into why I love school shows. I've mentioned school shows several times. When I say school shows, I'm primarily talking about, in my case, elementary, middle, and high schools, and some college shows. When it comes to hypnosis, hypnosis is really appropriate only for middle, high school, and college shows. Elementary kids are just too young, and it just wouldn't work for reasons that I don't have time to get into now. But I love school shows because it's a deep market. And what I mean by that is you have different opportunities to get in there. You've got fundraisers, daytime assemblies, post-proms, grad. And post-prom and grad parties are things where they're like nighttime things where after graduation or after the prom, the parents and sometimes the school, they organize these events. It's like a lockdown thing where the kids come in, from the hours of midnight to 6 a.m. or something like that to keep the kids off the street and safe so they don't do something they regret 9 months later. And fundraisers is just like it's how it sounds. The football team is looking for money for new uniforms, so they'll have a show. Everybody comes in and they pay tickets. The attendees pay ticket money, and they raise money for the school uniforms or football uniforms. Excuse me. And the assembly programs, just like it says, it's like a daytime assembly program where they take kids out of regular classes down for a special presentation. And most of the time, especially nowadays, like when I first started doing school shows, I heard a lot about assembly presenters doing like a Halloween show during the school assembly, during the day and things like that. Or and every once in a while, I'll still get like a holiday party. Or they want to have like a fun magic show as the holidays get closer and things like that. But these days, most of the time, it's getting very, very rare. These days, about the only time, especially in a high school where there's just so much pressure for the kids to achieve and be ready for college and so on and so forth and graduate, these days, about the only time that they'll have a daytime assembly presentation that's non-educational is maybe like right before the winter break, depending on the school and time factors and everything, they'll have sometimes, a lot of the schools will know, okay, we know the last 3 or 4 days before Christmas break, the kids are like, they're halfway in vacation mentally already. So rather than fight it, we'll do our testing, and like the last day maybe we'll have a special program. You get that once in a while. Other times, maybe like the last couple of days before the school year ends in the summertime, they'll sometimes, same thing. They'll sometimes have a final program. The kids have already done their testing, and they're just finishing up a few things, and they come in and they have like a fun program and bounce houses and that kind of stuff, even in high school. But most of the time, because of the time is just not there anymore. They really want things to be educational. So again, I'll go in to a school, and I do well over 100 school assemblies a year for various markets, elementary, middle school, and high school. And when I work for a high school, and I use hypnosis to demonstrate to kids how the mind works in the case of a drug awareness program, because and I say to the kids, nobody ever says, gee, I think I'll go try drugs and ruin my life. We fall into things because of peer pressure and social compliance and all these different factors. And I use hypnosis in a fun way to illustrate how these facets of the mind work and how it plays into people accidentally falling into getting hooked on drugs. And it's really fascinating stuff, and it's entertaining, and people love it. It's a neat way to get messages across, as opposed to just standing in front of the kids and lecturing, like a DARE program. Or like the policeman will come in and they'll get in front of the kids and they'll just lecture the kids. And these folks, they mean well and they want to do their civic duties and everything, but they don't have any presentational skills. And even if they did, they're just talking anyway. And even the most gifted speaker, if they're not engaging the audience, people tune them out after just a couple of minutes. So schools are great. Like I said before, daytime assemblies typically need educational material. And as I've alluded to earlier in this webinar, hot topics include bullying, respect, drug awareness. Those are the things that are most prevalent. Drug awareness is and will be a hot topic in schools for decades to come. Bullying is much more prevalent in the news now. When I was growing up, I'm in my 40s. When I was growing up, it was just boys being boys or just teasing. But now, bullying is being recognized for the epidemic that it actually is. And you hear stories all the time about people being picked on so mercilessly at school that the kids either, the people being picked on either come in and start shooting their classmates, or they commit suicide, or they do both. They shoot up a bunch of people, then they commit suicide. And it's absolutely terrible. So bullying, and I've got a bullying version of a hypnotic show that I do too. So the point of doing a school show is not only can you have another income stream, but you can take this art form of stage hypnosis and help people literally, potentially, save lives. It's really empowering. I'm doing it full time, like I said, for 11 years, professionally 20 years, and I love it. It's fantastic. It's great. And here's another reason why I love school shows: is kids are easy to hypnotize. I had this joke with a friend of mine, a fellow hypnotist from Florida. Big shout out to my friend Rodney Rash. We had this ongoing joke between the two of us that one of these days we're going to do like a post-prom or a grad party, and we're just going to have the kids, we'll call up at like 15 kids or whatever, have them sit down in the chairs, and okay, close your eyes, now hypnotize yourself. I'll come back in a few minutes, we'll start the show. I mean, they're just so darn easy. It's amazing. Much more so than corporate. I've done many years worth of corporate stage hypnosis shows, and they're a lot tougher because corporate audiences, they're more reticent. They don't want to look foolish in front of their coworkers, and there's a lot of the time that these holiday parties, there's alcohol involved, and that kind of thing. But anyway, schools are great, so I love schools. So now tying hypnosis and educational talks. So what you want to do is you want to gather the talking points of your talk, look at the concepts of what you're talking, the things you want to communicate to the talk. Like in my case, if I'm talking to kids about drugs, I want to talk about peer pressure and social compliance, among other topics. Look at those topics, and then I find hypnosis skits that illustrate that concept, metaphor. So basically a metaphor is a story, and once we hear a story, it's a really easy way to induce waking trance, hypnosis very, very easily. So the skit or the concepts, like in my case, I'll use like a rapid induction to illustrate this whole idea of social compliance. And it's a demonstrational hook, and it sticks in people's minds a lot longer than just the simple words that you use. And now in scripting, getting the key points across in an efficient manner, this is really key. And what I mean by that is not just talking. I'll give you an example from my magic shows, just because it's the first one that popped in my mind right now. In magic tricks, there's a lot of the times where the magician will have somebody pick a card. So my scripting for picking a card on stage, I was going to have somebody come up there, and there's a lot of educational concepts with this trick. I won't get into those details right now. But I got a deck of cards in my hand. I want somebody to pick a card. And I used to say something along the lines of, okay, in a moment I'm going to riffle through this deck with my thumb. I want you to say stop. When you say stop, you're going to take the card that you selected. You're going to take a free card anywhere in the deck. or worse to that effect. And it was a lot of mumbo jumbo. It was a lot of blah, 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 just a lot going on there verbally. So I shortened it up. I'll say, you're going to pick a card. Tell me when to stop. People could see what I was doing, and it's just something about cards and magicians and everything that most of the population, even little kids, know what you're going after. So after all that, that verbal blah, 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 I cut all that out. I just made it, I'm going to have you pick a card. Tell me when to stop. They see me riffle the card with my deck, and they say stop. So I've gotten the same point across with an economy of words. So that's key. Use hypnosis to illustrate to teens how the mind works and tie into your talk's concepts. And I mentioned that earlier about using hypnosis as a demonstrational tool. And some of the show is just for fun too, but I use, even the skits that I use, I call back to them and I illustrate, explaining how these concepts work. Like, oh, did you just see how when the kids were, driving an imaginary car and this, that, and the other thing, and I use, what I just did to illustrate how the mind works, and then springboard that into a discussion about how the mind works and everything. So it's not doing skits and fun just for the fun of it. It's making it all relevant to what you're talking about. So you're giving real value in addition to education. So this sounds like a lot of work, and it is, because I've been doing this for a long time. But wait. My goal for you, people listening to this and watching this, is to learn a complete 60-minute stage hypnosis show from start to finish, induction, skits, and everything. You see a lot of hypnotists out there, when they do stage training, they'll do, okay, here's your pre-talk, here's an induction, here's a slew of possible inductions, and here's a big book of skits. And there's no concept of making things flow from one to the other, no way of building the show. So with me, you're going to get the complete 60-minute show, and then we're talking about an educational show here, or pardon me, an entertaining show, from start to finish, word for word. You'll have it all. You can use it exactly as you want if you wish, and I'll explain exactly why my 60-minute show is built the way that it is, the structure I've got built into it, and why it rocks so much for you. You'll learn effective techniques for demonstrations as well. And the one thing I've not covered on this webinar thus far is that this is not a webinar just by me. You're going to get my experience, my 2 decades of experience, but you're also going to get a lot of demonstrational techniques and experience and instruction from Will. Will Horton has been doing this stuff for like 30 years. I've been doing hypnosis for about 10 years now. And I have not done a ton of demonstrational hypnosis. I've done some, but the demonstrational component of this training that I'm building up to right now is going to be done by Will. A lot of really cool demonstrational techniques. He wants to, one of his passions is seeing people succeed. And so when I approached him with this idea about doing a stage hypnosis training, he goes, let's make it stage and demonstrational hypnosis training so that people have skills not only for stage, but even if they don't want to do stage, they can make their demonstrations, Kiwanis clubs, country clubs, and so forth, much more powerful and impact people in a much more profound way. So you're going to not only get my 20 years experience, but you're going to get Will's 30 years of experience in this field too. So you're getting 50 years of experience from the two of us. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to cover blocking, acting, show structure, and much, much more. A lot of stagecraft. I've been doing stage presentations for 10 years. Full-time professionally, and 20 years professionally, even when I was doing it part-time. And Will's been doing this stuff all over the world, literally, for like 30 years. Will's also got a slew of experience in acting on stage and theater programs and plays and whatnot. And I've got some stage experience as well in terms of plays and stuff. So you're going to get a slew of different, just a potpourri of different experience levels covering this training. And I'm also going to give you a complete training in building an educational school assembly hypnosis show. Basically, I'm going to teach you my entire drug awareness educational hypnosis show for teens. This thing rocks. It's really, really solid. And this is something that I usually sell for about $250 as a video training, a distance learning thing. But I'm going to include this at no additional charge in this training. It's really cool. We're also going to cover marketing tips and secrets to book gigs, website tips, demo video tips, email tips, and so much more. I mean, what good is this stuff unless you can actually book it and make money with it? So what we have for you today is, here's what I want you to have. I want you to have result number 1, clear understanding of proven stage and demonstrational hypnosis shows and techniques. Number 2, the ins and outs of the school assembly shows, educational concepts, different submarkets, and much, much more. The nuances, what each group is looking for. The goals that somebody who hires you for a post-prom, what they're looking for your show to accomplish is different than what they're looking for you to accomplish with a daytime assembly program. They've got different goals and ideas in their mind for this stuff. And understanding that will help you better build rapport with those folks. Because even though all these different committees may be in the same school, their goals may be different. And in fact, I guarantee they're different. Result number 3, clear understanding of how to effectively present the material as a pro during a stage hypnosis show, civic group talk, or corporate holiday party / meeting. And by the way, those are the markets that are easier to book than Vegas and cruise ships and whatnot. Is corporate holiday parties, school shows, colleges, and so forth. And we'll cover all that and more during the training. Result number 4, clear understanding of how to sell the stuff. I covered that a moment ago. Modern stuff, website tips, email tips, that kind of thing. Not cold calling tips or ancient tips that have fallen by the wayside. So, introducing the Mesmerize Your Audience complete 2-day stage and demonstrational hypnosis training. Stage and demonstrational hypnosis presentations are a lot of fun. I've been doing them for a long period of time, so has Will. I believe this will be the best live course available to teach stage hypnosis, demonstrations, and booking school assemblies to hypnotists. And again, we're doing this because we've got, between the two of us, about 50 years of experience. So you're going to get just a slew of different experience. This course will give you step-by-step instruction to shave 10 years off the learning curve. Also, if you don't have this course and you're just another person offering free talks and stage hypnosis shows, nothing stands out. It's all about the presentation. The thing is not the thing. It's how you do the thing that matters. You'll have everything you need after this training is over. So I'll be honest with you, the values in this training are huge. I mean, and this is something I've not covered before in this webinar, but I'll share with you this now. My income every year is over $100,000. And up until this year, the majority of my income was derived from doing presentations. And as I said before, traveling on the road, I mean, I'll drive 6 hours at a time. I'll hop on a plane. I'm on the road for like weeks on end. For me, the way my business had evolved, traveling is getting very, very old. So I'm pulling back on my traveling. I'm doing more clinical work. But for several years up to this year, every year I earned over $100,000 a year, most of it by performing. A little bit from clinical, like literally $5,000 was clinical before I learned how to do this stuff right. So well over $100,000 a year doing presentations. So when I talk about the value of the stuff that you're going to get, I mean this literally. This has been worth hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s of value to me and my family every year. So module number 1, the 60-minute show, an entertaining, fun, fast-paced, entertaining stage hypnosis show. You can use it word for word if you want to. Module number 2, educational show instruction. You're basically getting 2 complete, word for word, if you want to use them in that fashion, word for word shows. And by the way, the $297 value for each one, it should be a lot higher than that, but I have to make this realistic. Module number 3, proven marketing tools, how to sell the stuff, how to gain money with this stuff. And I'm not going to hold anything back because I'm not performing as much as I used to. Module number 4, getting booked fast. I'll teach you some ways to get shows really, really fast. I mean, once you learn this stuff, you could theoretically get shows within the next couple of days after learning this material. Module number 5, demonstrational hypnosis. I've got some things I'm going to contribute to this, but this is mostly going to be Will Horton's key to this whole presentation, really making this stuff rock. It's going to be a lot of fun, And with me, you'll get lifetime email support. Any questions about anything that I covered during this webinar and during the live training, you can email me until the day I leave this earth and ask me questions, and I can help you with it, clarification and that sort of thing. The total value is $1,982. And that's really what I wanted to charge for this, because like I said, no hype, no fluff. I make $100,000 a year performing. I'm actually out in the trenches doing this stuff. But you're not going to pay $1,982. I originally wanted to make this just $995. Realistically, and there's other trainers out there who talk about, do stage hypnosis, you get $2,500 per show. And realistically, that is not going to happen for every show. But I can say that the vast majority of my shows, both post-proms, post-grad parties, college shows, and daytime assembly programs, most of the shows that I do are within the $1,000 range. Some of them are lower, like $800, $900 if they're local. Some of them are higher, $1,200 or more. If I fly across the country, obviously it's more. But the $995 range is about average for me. It's right around that average for everything that I do. No hype, no line, nothing. So literally, booking one show would pay for this training. But I'm not even going to do it for that. You're not even going to pay $995 for that. I wanted to. I really wanted to charge that for it because it's worth it. And we all know if we don't have value attached to something, we tend to undervalue it. But Will, the smart, savvy guy that he is, he twisted my arm and made me bring down the investment level down to just $495. It's $495. So register now. The dates are going to be November 22nd, 23rd, 2014 in Venice, Florida. It's going to be the Saturday and Sunday right after the Train the Trainer training that Will is doing. That once you complete this training, that 5-day training, that Monday through Friday, you'll be a CI trainer through the National Guild of Hypnotists. So my training, the thing that Will and I are doing together, is going to be that Saturday and Sunday right after that training. And it's going to be down in beautiful Venice, Florida, and it's warm, it's beautiful, there's plenty of great restaurants, and Will knows how to run a great training. So when I've done trainings with him in the past, we've all bonded, we've gone out to dinner together afterwards. The one time last year we did the training, we all got together, we went out to a movie afterwards, we saw a really cool science fiction movie, it was a lot of fun, that kind of stuff. So here's how you do it. You PayPal $495 to me, that's chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net, and take note of the spelling of my first name. It's C-R-I-S. chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net. So what to do? Send $495 to via PayPal to chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net to secure your spot right now. Or you can also call me, 716-940-8963 with your credit card to secure your spot. We can do it over the phone too. That is my business line, so if you get it and you hear the voicemail talk about Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center, you got the right place. You hear my voice, and I will get back to you promptly. Will will also have the hotel information where this is held. It's going to be held at the Ramada, and the same location as the trainer training in Venice, Florida. The information is up on his website at www.nfnlp.com. So hurry up, go ahead and do it right now, because time is wasting as I'm recording this. It is November 1st, and we got to get this thing filled so that we can make a go of this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I guarantee it. When I do this kind of stuff, I have a lot of fun. It's interactive, and I make sure that everybody understands the concepts before we continue. So you'll have a great time with this, and I do hope to see you all very soon. Once again, chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net. If you have any questions about anything in this webinar, or what will the training cover in more details and everything, shoot me an email or give me a call. We can talk about it too. So I want to thank all of you for joining me on this training, on this webinar. I've had a lot of fun, and I do hope to see you all very soon. So thank you very much, and Godspeed. Thank you very much.